So today we're going to look at how to maximize some collaboration efforts inside your PDM professional vault, and specifically by using the TeamWorks professional product by our HAWKWARE team. My name is Chris Cook. I'm the product manager for HAWKWARE here at HAWKWARE Systems. So I manage all of the tools that we write for you to plug into PDM, as well as some of the SolidWorks ones that you may be familiar with, like a TreeView and HAWKWARE tools as well. So we're going to talk about collaboration. Sometimes it's a good idea just to start from the beginning and look at what defines that that concept. There was 3 definitions up on Webster website. The third one had to do with politics, so we'll leave that one out. But for most part, there were kind of 2 aspects. One is a joint endeavor within a group, right? Typically an intellectual one that could correspond really well to your collaborative efforts within engineering, for example, your concurrent design that you do inside the SolidWorks application with the PDM add-in. And then the other one is the idea of different groups working together that don't normally work together, right? So engineering and operations, or project management, and the other different groups around within the company that you don't always necessarily have direct contact with. Right. So it's kind of a good place to think about how we use the tools that we have today and what some of the opportunities are going forward. So today in PDM Professional, there's really the kind of 2 aspects there. When it comes to the intellectual endeavors, we're really looking at kind of product collaboration. So your concurrent engineering, as we mentioned, the SolidWorks add-in for PDM does a pretty okay job of keeping you in tune with what's going on inside the model, who's got what checked out, what's the status, do you have the latest, all of that to kind of keep that orderly. You've got the workflow, their approval process that's built in, whether you move something forward and approve or reject, and the notifications that are sent out are helpful as well. But they're not really a dialogue, right? But that's all kind of product related collaboration. Then with interdepartmental, we've got the wide document support, things like the plugin for Microsoft Office, CAD plugins for non SolidWorks, might fit into that as well. But it's a little less useful than say the stuff that's built into the SolidWorks environment, simply because SolidWorks has a reference structure that's sort of dynamic, and having that integration to tell you who's working on what can be important, and that's a little harder to track and manage on the for non-CAD documents, where the relationships may be manually created. But the interdepartmental activities, that's really more of a process level sort of collaboration. You're kind of working together on how things move through your process, how things get released, how things get manufactured. So the opportunities that we have to improve upon what PDM has are like social interactions. I don't want to use the term social media necessarily, because it's not necessarily a great business application, but the concept there is meaningful, right? We use forums and message boards. We might use intranet sites. A lot of times we correspond through email. I know internally here at Hawk Ridge, we use a messaging system called Glip that allows us to kind of share documents and communicate back and forth. But those tools are typically detached from your vault. They don't have a relationship directly to what's going on inside PDM and the control documents and the designs that make up your product. But they can sort of speak to process and how you manage those interactions. Things like visual messaging, being able to share photos and videos and illustrations, maybe markups, things like that can be important in both the product aspect of collaboration, as well as the process aspect of that. And then a common one that we all have to deal with is just the results of our meetings. We come together quite a bit and meet about how the product or the project is progressing, and we typically leave those meetings with a list of action items. and then how do we track, what's going on with those items. Right? So it's kind of a low level, not a low level, but a simplistic sort of project management in that regard. Just what are the follow-up items and how do we document those if they're related to stuff that's managed and stored inside our vault. So the team at HAWKWARE created TeamWorks Professional. Plug in, for SolidWorks PDM Professional. It doesn't work with any other applications currently. It's just an add-in for that, and it has a client application that sits on your desktop, and then an add-in component that connects to your vault. So when we look at these different aspects of how we want to improve the collaboration, the first aspect is just giving your users a place to exchange ideas. You have epiphanies about a product when you're working on part of a change or you're walking through the shop one day, right? And you want to get those ideas down. Typically, we would put them in an email and send them out, but it's easy for that to get lost and not be associated directly with the files or the documents or the designs in your vault that are being impacted. So it'd be nice to be able to take that free exchange of ideas and attach it to the control documents so that you can see them in their proper context, as well as just to organize our efforts, being able to again take those list of action items and turn them into to trackable tasks that we can view in relationship to our products. So for our the feature within TeamWorks Professional that allows us to do this is discussions. And in those discussions, we can, as we'll see, we can launch them from TeamWorks, we can launch them from PDM. And in those, we can type as much as we want to explain what our ideas are, but we can also attach supporting documentation, something that may not be in the vault. For example, I'm walking through the shop and I see a potential area of failure on a design, and I take a picture of it on my phone, and I want to put that in there as a something to track against potential changes. So we can attach images and documents and hyperlink to various sources to clarify our ideas again, but in the context of our designs. And those can be, of course, then linked back to the vault object, so we can see any discussions that are happening around a specific document, whether it's an assembly or a folder or any other document within our vault. And then when it comes to organizing our efforts, we have some other features inside TeamWorks to help with that aspect of it. We've got tasks, which is kind of the foundational object or feature in TeamWorks for that. And a task can then be organized or grouped into what we consider milestones, which can then be grouped into projects. Don't have to use milestones, they're kind of optional, so you can get complete freedom in how you want to organize these tasks related to projects. And then you can log time against what you're working on. And that is a question that gets asked quite a bit in PDM, just for some basic kind of team management. Is how much time am I spending doing any given change or task related to the vault? And so we give you an easy way to log that time against either a project or a task or anything else that you happen to be doing. And then because we wrote this product, we decided to make the design decision to build it on an API. So it is its own API at the core, and everything that you're going to see in the UI and how it operates and how it functions is built against that API. Any of you that have done some programming will kind of know what I'm talking about there, but for the rest of you, it really just means that we can tailor it to do just about anything you need, and because of the way it's architected. So as we go through that, I'll kind of point out some of the opportunities and places where that may be relevant for you. But just know that as you see it today, if it looks like it's interesting, but maybe it needs to behave a little different in one area or another, don't be discouraged by that. Absolutely, it's probably an opportunity to fine tune it to exactly to fit your environment. So let's go ahead and take a look at at Teamworks and how this thing works. So I'm going to start inside the vault. Just going to browse in here. I'm going to make sure that I'm logged in as the right user. I'm going to go in. Oh, I'm logged in as Eddie. Great. So I'm logged into as a fictitious engineer named Eddie, and we're looking at a design, and I noticed something. Like here, I've got these rivets that are sticking out. You know, that's going to wear off prematurely, and maybe I don't need them quite that long, or and I want to note that. If there's different ways that you could do that, but here, you know, inside our vault, I've got e-drawings to preview, which is nice. You know, pretty much anybody that uses PDM can use that. You can do markups and measure with it, is great, but to do that is going to require you to check out the file if you wanted to stay with it natively. Now you could save it out as a share, but that's kind of one area where we really wanted to leverage a tool to allow you to just kind of, you know, put your ideas out there easily. So if you right click any document in the vault, or a folder for that matter, you'll see a Teamworks Pro item in the menu. And so from here, we have kind of three options. If I just want to get to work and start doing stuff, I can create a task, right? So then I can track the work that I'm going to do, how long I think it's going to take, log my time. We'll take a look at what a task looks like here in just a moment. But if I just want to put my ideas out there, I can just say I want to discuss it. And that's going to launch the Teamworks client, which is what we're seeing here. So this has got the file, the excavator bucket attached to it. And so I can just type in whatever my thoughts are. Right? So I'll say, you know, these rivets look too long. Let's shorten them, you know, by some amount. Let's just say 1/2 inch for our purposes. We could always measure to double check, but I looked at it earlier, so I think that's a good amount. If we want to attach other documentation, maybe we've got, you know, a video or an image that we've captured from the shop that we want to attach to it. Right? We can just browse to our files and attach it, and that just becomes a part of this this discussion object. So when I save it, the discussion will look like this. It'll have a title, who did it and when, what our comments were, any of those links to items. So if they're images, it'll just preview them for us right in that environment. And anybody else can then add a comment and attach files and keep submitting it. We can create this nice kind of forum thread about our assembly. So if we're inside PDM and we want to know, you know, what's going on with this, you know, we can view the details on that assembly, and it'll show us things that against it. So this is that assembly item here, and likewise, now if we're browsing around inside Teamworks and we want to go to that assembly, we've got a link to take us back to it. These are any tasks that are associated with it. I go to discussions. I can see the discussions that I've created, and who created them. Again, I can just click on the discussions if I want to add more comments. So if we decide that this is something that needs to happen, right, we need to make this change to the assembly, we can do that again from Teamworks, or we can do it from PDM. So again, if we go back into PDM and we're looking at this assembly anyways, let's just say we want to launch a task and make the change. So I'm going to create it, and I'll just give it a number. And as you can imagine, this is probably a great place for some automation, depending on what your process is. Where do you want to get the number? You know, how do you want to fill out the task when it's specifically an ECO or maybe an ECR, right? We highlight any fields that are mandatory, and some of these are definable by your own administrator. So I'll put a note in there what we want to do, set a priority. The priority lists, again, are kind of definable by you. Say this is a medium priority. And then you can just define your list of task types. So this one, we've created one called ECO. And who do you want to assign it to? So since Teamworks is connected to your vault, it pulls in your list of users and groups. So you'll have the same list here that you would see if you were sending out a notification or selecting a group member inside PDM. So we'll self-assign it. We're going to let Eddie work on this one, and then decide which project it's going to belong to. If your organizing your products by, or projects, excuse me, with milestones, you can select a milestone too. Ours doesn't, so I don't have to worry about that. And you can set a due date. Maybe it's, it's a change that needs to happen today. And we can decide how much time we think it's going to require. And if we want to put labels in there that are searchable later on, we can. And you'll notice over here on the right, this is where we establish links to the vault. So it already has my excavator bucket assembly. Let's say I right-click the wrong thing, I can just hit the X and clear it out, and I can go browse to different files and folders, or I can add more things to it. Right, so I can change what it's linked to right here. Again, if I wanted to attach supporting documentation, images, video, things that I've found in the shop, I can attach a file here just like we saw with discussions. So if I save that, it creates that task and then takes me out to my dashboard. So just a quick tour of what's going on here inside Teamworks. The dashboard, which is this link here, is everything that's happening in the vault or in the Teamworks environment. So all comments by all users, all the recent work by all users, which would be time you're logging against different things, and any updated tasks by all users. So if I only want to see a dashboard of my stuff, the things that are the tasks that are assigned to me or the discussions I've created, then I go to Profile. This is my own dashboard of the time I've logged this week, my comments I've made, the work I've done. And then I've got links here where I could drill down and say I just want to see my tasks, or I just want to see my timesheet and see what time I've logged. So that's what the my tasks and my timesheet do. There's these links here, take you here. And if you want to look at all the tasks, it's by default filters on you. You can look at all the tasks that are set up in Teamworks, and you can sort by various aspects. Here we are. Due dates, projects, priorities, who's it assigned to, that sort of thing. So if we look at the one I just created, right? Each task will have its own set of details and its own sort of dashboard. Right? So we can log progress. This will go to 100 as soon as I complete the task, but along the way I can manually assign what type of progress I have. Sometimes, that's the best to do as a user. You kind of know, without a quantifiable amount, how much progress, do I have 5% of the work done or 5% to go? Have I done all the heavy lifting, that sort of thing. And then you can log time against that as well, and that will compare against what we've said the estimated hours are. So because this is connected to a Vault document, I've got the status history down here. So right now the task is open, but I haven't actually started it. So you're going to see this timeline with little dots based on, when I start it, it's going to create a new node. And so what's going to show underneath is any Vault history against this assembly while this task is in this state. So if this thing gets checked out and checked in and moved through the workflow while it's sitting in open, that will all get reported here. And as I move this through, these history items will move to their respective phases. So let's say I want to start it. I'm going to go ahead and get going with this, and we can see it added that second node here of started. And again, if we look at details, we can see now we've got a new column. So if I want to go to this file, I'm going to go again back to my documents. I'm just going to click on it. Right. So if I'm looking in my interface for Teamworks, I can again just browse right to the Vault without having to go search for it. Again, that's another benefit of connecting these ideas and work that we need to do to the documents that are in the Vault. So we'll push this through the workflow. Right now it's released. Say we want a new release. I don't want to release everything. I just want to change the assembly and this rivet. And we'll go ahead and check all of those out. So it'll be a pretty quick and easy change to make inside SOLIDWORKS. Again, we're just going to change the length a little bit. I'll start it from the drawing level. That seems to be the simplest. I'll drill down and make sure everything is up to date as we go. So we'll open the rivet. And we should see that update then happen there. And we can save it. And if we want to just make sure the assembly itself is all rebuilt and saved, do that as well. Right, so now we can check it in. And we'll push this through the workflow and submit it for approval. So now if we look back here, we can see everything is sitting in the pending approval state. If we look back at our task, and we go back to those details, we now get to see in their history of started that I changed it to pending approval, or I started at work, moved it to work in process, I created a new version, moved it to pending approval. So I can log some time against it. So if I want to put in, a half an hour work, I can put that in there. Let's say that the progress was 75%. Right, I can add that. If I wanted to add some more comments to it, I could, as well as attach more documentation. But if I'm ready to go, I can just complete that task. You can see progress moves to 100. And now under status, we've gone from open and started to done. And now anything that's done to this file at this point will then show up under the done area. So if we log out of the vault as Eddie, I'll log in as the manager. I'm going to change the state on this. Go ahead and release all these documents. And now I can go here to TeamWorks Pro. Here we go. So here we can see that Mark did his work, added a new version because it got a new revision. It went to released. It's now revision C. So you get that kind of history of what's happening. Again, just tying what our activities and the work that we're doing to the vault documents that we're controlling. As you saw, there's different opportunities in there to kind of customize how TeamWorks functions for you. Right, it does a lot of stuff out of the box. Right, does great connectivity between, again, our efforts and the documents that we're managing. But certainly there's some opportunities there to automate it based on what your specific tasks and activities are. So if you wanted to create a template, for example, in PDM that creates tasks as well as creates ECOs and tie those processes to go, that's certainly possible. If you need to create, other applications, like maybe a mobile app that allows you to take pictures and add notes to create a discussion or launch something, those are certainly things that are possible as well. Having an open architecture like it does gives us a lot of flexibility there. And we think it can add, a lot of value to your efforts around the activities that, again, you do in the vault. Again, if you want more information about TeamWorks Pro, you can contact us. We've got a page for it on the HAWKWARE Systems website. You can certainly call us toll free, send an email to info@hawkware.sys, or of course, if you've got great relationship with our reps, you can reach out to them and we'd be happy to set up a specific demo for you or talk about how it would fit in your organization. Yeah, thank you all for joining. Reach out to us if you got any more questions about this. We'd be happy to discuss it.